Okay, in this particular problem, we're going to look at the effect of an open market purchase on the Keynesian model, where in the Keynesian model, the aggregate supply curve is perfectly elastic. And we're doing this because initially here, at the equilibrium, real GDP is less than potential. So we need to, the Fed needs to adopt a lower interest rate policy with an open market purchase to boost the economy out of this recessionary gap into a situation where GDP is equal to potential and the natural unemployment rate and unemployment rate are equal. Okay, so this is called monetary stimulus in the Keynesian model. Okay, it starts off like the previous problems. We have to derive our demand curve for reserves. Here the reserve required ratio is 0.2. Demand deposits, checkable deposits total to 458 billion. And the shock parameter is 0.83 or minus 83. Okay, and then the intercept becomes, it's the sum of the shock parameter and required reserves, and it's 8.6. The slope is equal to the 0.005 here. The vertical section of reserves supply is equal to, where's it at? Sorry, I had to edit that. I've left out that very valuable information. Total reserves in the banking system equals 1.2 trillion or 1,220 billion. So the vertical section is 1,220. If the Fed sets its target for the federal funds rate equal to 2.5, the discount rate is going to be equal to 3.5, 100 basis points higher. And so that's going to keep the supply curve at 3.5. Hit enter and we can find out if we've got the answers correct. Okay, good. So down here, when we graph this, federal funds rate is the price of reserves. Quantity reserves is R. This is reserve supply. And this is reserves demand. And the equilibrium is right here. The discount rate is right here. So the discount rate is 3.5. And we want to know what the target is. We don't know what the target is yet. Okay, so it's really easy to calculate the target. All we got to do is plug this value into that equation to get the target. So let's go ahead and close this out and clear. The quantity reserves in equilibrium is whatever the quantity is down here, right? Because it's on the vertical, demand crosses the vertical section of the supply curve. So that's 1,220. Like I said, the federal funds rate equals 8.6 minus 0.005 times the quantity of reserves, which is 1,220. This is the equilibrium federal funds rate. Let me get rid of the space in the IFF there, and we get a federal funds rate equilibrium of 2.5. And that equals the target. So the equilibrium federal funds rate is equal to its target. Okay. Now down here, assume the market for money is given by this model, right? Okay, so our money supply is right here. Our money demand is here. The equilibrium is right there, and it looks like it's about 3. And then the quantity of money is M, and the price of money is the nominal rate of interest. Okay? And so we've got to find this equilibrium. Well, the equilibrium is just found by plugging this quantity of money into that equation. Okay, so we'll do it right here. Equal 14.5 minus 0.0054 times the quantity of money, which is 21.50. And so the equilibrium nominal rate of interest is 2.890, and the equilibrium quantity of money is 21.50. Okay. Now, in the model below, we got to find the equilibrium GDP level. Well, I give it to you. You don't have to find it. Our equilibrium is right here. This is our short-run aggregate supply curve, and it's perfectly elastic, which models the effect of sticky prices and wages. Our long-run aggregate supply curve is up here. It's the value of potential GDP. So this vertical line is at 14.611, and that's our aggregate demand right there. Demand for all final goods and services. And you can see that we're in a recessionary gap. And when you're in a recessionary gap, unemployment's high and GDP is low. Okay? This is the price level, or inflation. And this down here is real GDP. Okay? So our GDP is less than potential, so unemployment's high. Let's clear that. So one way to find the equilibrium is to set short and aggregate supply right here. That's just 221. Set that equal to that. So over here, 221 equal to this. Right? Add this to both sides. Subtract the 221 from both sides. And then divide this difference here by the slope, 15.8. And you get what real GDP is. Okay? To find the value, just delete the space and the y. 13.29. I give it to you right there, right? Now, you plug this 13.291 into here and you get 221. You plug it into here and you get 221. So the price level is 221. Okay? The output gap is the difference between potential, between GDP and potential. So the output gap is GDP minus potential, which is 14.611. So the output gap is negative because we're in a recessionary gap. Okay, so because the unemployment rate is greater than the natural unemployment rate, the economy is in a recessionary gap. GDP is too low and unemployment is too high. Okay, I need to change that to a recessionary gap, is in a recessionary gap. And we'll try here instead. Natural rate of unemployment. How about that? Natural rate of unemployment. Hit enter and we should get everything correct. Okay. Now to close this gap, to move this point to here, the Fed wants to increase aggregate demand so it shifts from here to there. So it'll be like right in here somewhere, right? To do that, the Fed has to do what? The Fed conducts an open market purchase to lower the federal funds rate. Okay. Let's see if that works. And it looks like it did. So the Fed conducts an open market purchase to lower the federal funds rate target to 1.5 percentage points. So if the target is lowered to 1.5 percentage points, that means the discount rate, or where the reserve supply curve goes horizontal, is at 2.5 percentage points. Assuming the open market purchase is equal to $200 billion, reserves increase from what it was, 1,220, plus the $200 billion in the open market purchase, right? So this would be 1,420. So the vertical section of the supply curve is at $1,420 billion. So let's hit enter here to see if that works. Okay, so it does, right? So originally we're at $1,220 billion. Now reserve supply is at $1,420 billion. The discount rate was lowered from 3.5 down to 2.5 because the target was reduced from 2.5 down to 1.5. So if we want to label this, this would be the new supply curve of reserves. The new equilibrium would be down here. Target equilibrium would be down there. The original supply curve is up here. The demand for reserves is here. The price of reserves is the federal funds rate. Reserves is the quantity of the money in the system. And the old equilibrium is right here. And you can see that the Fed has lowered the federal funds rate. So when the Fed lowers the federal funds rate, interest rates generally fall, investment and exports, net exports both increase. Okay, so that's what the Fed's trying to do. We'll close that out. So at the equilibrium, the quantity reserves is now 1420, and the federal funds rate, because the discount rate is 2.5, the federal funds rate is going to be probably 1.5, but we can double check. We can double check by plugging this quantity of reserves into the original demand curve. So let's do it right here. Okay. So the original demand equation for the federal funds market is 8.6 minus 0.005 times that new quantity of reserves, which is 1420, right? So yeah, the federal funds rate is equal to 1.5 in equilibrium. Okay. We hit enter and see if we got those right. We should. Okay. Now, with a multiplier of 1.96 and an open market purchase of $200 billion, the money supply increases by the multiplier times the size of the open market purchase, which in this case is 200 billion, right? $200 billion. So we're multiplying that multiplier by 200 billion. So let's go over here and do it. 1.96 times 200 billion is 392. Okay, so that's the increase in the money supply, 392. Now, the old money supply was this, right? The original money supply was that. So the original money supply was this value, right? And the money, that increases by this amount. So let's just go calculate this over in Excel. Put an equal sign in front of the sum. So the money supply increases to this value. Okay, and we can see that here, right? So the nominal rate of interest, you can think of this as the prime lending rate. The nominal rate of interest falls substantially, doesn't it? This is the new money supply. This is the old equilibrium, the original equilibrium in the market for money. Nominal rate of interest is the price of money. The quantity of money is M. The original money supply and money demand, which we held constant. Okay, so we have a decrease in nominal rate of interest. Okay, and then when we get that, with the way we get that nominal rate of interest, we take this new money supply, we plug it into our demand for money. So we plug in our demand for money up here. This is our demand for money right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this here into Excel. I'll change that to a minus symbol. We're going to multiply that by the new quantity of money, 2542. And we get a nominal interest rate of 0.773. So interest rates for consumers in general were 2.890. Interest rates for consumer firms now are at 0.773. So let's go ahead and enter there. Okay. Now, assuming the monetary policy works as intended, show how it affects the above Keynesian model. This Keynesian model, it's going to push this out, right? It's supposed to push aggregate demand to this point. Okay. If inflation and expectations are constant, what's going to happen? Well, let's look at this. Remember, the nominal rate of interest, which fell to 0.773, equals the real rate of interest plus expected inflation. Right? Well, we're assuming inflation expectations are constant, right? So if this falls by 2, this has to fall by 2. So the real rate of interest falls by 2, right? So, but the nominal rate of interest fell from, what was it? The nominal rate of interest was 2.89. The nominal rate of interest was 2.89. It is now, in this market for money, 0.773. So if nominal rates fall by that amount, then what? Real rates should fall by the same amount, right? Real rate will fall by that same amount if inflation expectations are constant. Which does what? That increases investment expenditures and increases exports. This increases aggregate demand. Okay, and you see aggregate demand increase from the black to the red, and the gap closed, the recessionary gap closed. Now we're at this point here. Okay, so the equilibrium now is right here at the intersection of all three, right? The equilibrium was right here, right? And we had a recessionary gap. Okay. The decrease in the real rate of interest caused by the decrease in the nominal rate of interest, which was caused by the decrease in the federal funds rate and the increase in reserves, well, that shifts aggregate demand from black to red. Shifts it out, right? Aggregate demand shifts out. Again, this is the price level. This is real GDP. And GDP increases, right? The price level is constant. You see that? The price level was 220 and now it's 220. But the unemployment rate went from high to low. So to answer these last few questions, real GDP does increase. The price level does not change. And the unemployment rate decreases or declined. So real GDP increased, the price level did not change, and the unemployment rate declined. And that's monetary policy in the Keynesian model. There is no consequence on price level in the short run.